I am very honored to be doing this fireside chat with Sheena Allen. So let me give you a little background on her because, of course, I used the Google because I wanted to make sure I was good and prepared. But Sheena is that chick, okay? She's that chick. Sheena is the CEO of Capway, which is a digital bank that is just turning this industry upside down. On top of that, she started her own app company. She made all these apps in her senior year of college. That in itself is amazing. So Sheena, I just want you to give us a little insight because, you know, you're from a small town. I'm from a small town. You made your way to Silicon Valley. You started a tech company. And that's an industry that's not necessarily meant for, you know, traditionally meant for Black people or women. What made you go, I'm gonna be a tech entrepreneur?
So the small town that I'm from Terry, Mississippi, little small town in Mississippi. My senior year of college, I had an idea for a mobile app. I wasn't in school for anything technical, so I started out completely non-technical. But I had this idea and I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to create this app. Google sent me to guru.com, which I don't even know if it's still around. And I found a developer and I did everything myself. I designed it myself using literally like printer paper and designed it myself, found a developer, borrowed some money from my dad. And that was how I started my first app. And I realized like, I fell in love with developing apps. Graduated, told my parents I wanted to be a tech entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. They weren't the biggest fans, but that was my journey into the tech space.
And then why specifically digital banking? Because that, you know, the banking field is so regulated. So for you to go, not only tech, but banking and tech.
So banking wasn't my first one. Finance was not my first one. The app company that I started in high school and college was just mainly like in a photo media space. I left Mississippi, I moved to San Jose with a friend, so I got the chance to experience Silicon Valley. Left the Valley, I moved to Austin. That's when I got my first my first real mentors. But when I would come back home to Mississippi to visit, my family members, people in my community were still cashing their checks at the local grocery store. And so many people were unbanked, underbanked, and it was like, how do I put my experience of building tech companies, combine that with my experience of people who lack financial access, and that is actually how the idea of building a fintech or building Capway came to be. It really was combining personal and professional experience, but I was not in school for anything technical and never actually thought I would do anything in the finance space.
That's huge. And so that seems like a big leap because if you're dealing, you know, with people that are using loans or they're underbanked or unbanked. How do you get them to go, okay, well now let's try a digital bank? What have been some of your challenges with this community?
The challenges, trust is always a huge thing. I think the thing that's changed though depends on the market that you're talking or the demographic that you're talking. Because you're talking millennials and Gen Z, they only know technology. So it's much easier for them to adapt versus, you know, my dad, who the only reason a lot of people who are, I would say 50, 60 plus was willing to touch technology was because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. They would get their checks and they would have nowhere to cash them because a lot of people were unbanked. The numbers are actually now coming down, but the biggest challenge wasn't the consumer. The biggest challenge was actually navigating the banking space. And it's the reason that we've actually had to step back as Capway transparently because of it's so regulated. As a founder, your goal, your job as a founder and a CEO is to execute. That is literally your job. You're wearing 50 hats, but you got to hire, you got to delegate, but you have to execute. And in the banking space, it's so regulated that you don't move at the beat of your own drum. Yeah. Like you are literally having to answer or wait on an answer from someone else. Backstage before we came, I was giving her an example of, you know, we had our debit cards or Visa debit cards. The card art, doesn't matter who you have a card with. I don't care if it's Bank of America, Chase, it literally doesn't matter. Anytime you see artwork on a card, that card art has to be approved by whoever that card is by, MasterCard, Amex, Visa. And so you don't know if it's going to take them 2 weeks to approve that card art or it's going to take them 2 months. You don't control that. And so the banking challenges hasn't, once again, necessarily been the consumer side. It's been the regulatory side. It's been the other side. You building a company to fight financial inclusion against a system that wasn't meant to serve the people that you're trying to serve. So you're not just fighting to try to get consumers, you're fighting the other side too.
So talk to us about that, because a lot of times I've seen, older white men running traditional banking institutions, and now we have a wonderful young Black woman doing the same thing. What makes Capway different from other traditional banking?
I mean, I've learned so much in running Capway. And like I said, transparently, we've taken a step back in what we are doing. And what has made us different, it is a perspective. My perspective growing up in Mississippi, my perspective as a woman, my perspective as a Black woman definitely plays into it. Of course, our team has been diverse. Yes, most people who run banks are older white males. People trust and are looking for something different though. And that's something that's not just in banking. I think that's across the board. People are looking for something different. And I believe for us, that was what we were bringing to the table. And in this time of us stepping back, reevaluating things, what's next, I don't think the financial inclusion space is going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. I
think it is me as a CEO, as a founder, stepping back and looking at all the mistakes, looking at the regulatory laws, what's changing, what's not changing, and then how do we come back and build something better.
And I'm glad you said that. So I know you've been in the AI space, which is awesome. It's fairly new for most people, but it's been around forever. Nationwide has used it in some of their AI tools. So it's not something that's new per se, but it's new and trendy, I would say. What are some of the things that entrepreneurs can do to get themselves ready and utilize AI and not make it so scary?
Yeah, so AI is definitely not new. I don't know if she's here today, but so my teacher in AI is Nashley Cephas, who's also from Mississippi, by the way. And generative AI is the more trendy thing, the Chat GPT, like that's what we're seeing. But as you mentioned, AI has been around for a long time. So there's generative AI and there's predictive AI, which is most people don't talk about. But when you talk about like machine learning and all these things, like those things have been around for so long. Also, I think the issue or the scary piece is people think AI is going to take all of their jobs. AI is going to take jobs, but for the most part, it's going to be a shift. It's not necessarily going to take your job away completely. You're going to have to shift your job. So instead of doing one thing of AI might be doing A, but you're going to have to learn to operate what's going on to get A going. Yeah. And so it's not, once again, I think people need to step back from being so scared of their jobs being taken and be prepared to shift of how their job is having to be done.
Yeah, because I mean, you think about like back in the day when the internet was coming out, people were afraid of that, right? What is this going to do? Did internet take people's jobs? Absolutely, but I think when you learn to navigate the new technology, you end up becoming the winner. So what are some things that you've done with AI in your business? Yeah, so
we're still in stealth mode. But some things that we're doing right now behind the scenes is we look at both sides. So we're looking at the research side, and then we're also looking at the deployment side. The research side for us is the biggest one is definitely its job, its workforce, what's changing, what's the shift. The other thing from a research side is actually the biases that are in AI. And so we've all probably seen or heard about the racial issues, gender issues that comes with AI. The thing that I think some people don't understand of why the bias issue is so huge and what's the issue there is AI is nothing but data. It's literally data. So generative AI is taking data, putting out pretty much human-like patterns from a creative space. So that's text, images, videos. Predictive AI is taking historical data for future outcomes. The problem is the data of today has issues in it already. And so when you're taking data that historically has had racial or other type of biases in it, putting that data into a more advanced system to output things for artificial intelligence, you're actually only widening the gap of the issues that comes with the biases that AI is spitting out. So The problem is not in the technology. The problem is in the data that is going into the technology, which we've historically continued to have issues with.
Yeah.
Even going back to finance. When you talk about people who are unbanked, underbanked, that's not the same data that you're getting all from like a Bank of America or a Chase. And so that data is going to have issues if you're trying to build something in the AI space for finance. And so the issue is the data, not having certain data, not inputting certain data, and a historical issue with data.
And so is that something that you're doing to, I guess, kind of change the data that goes into AI?
I don't think well, you can't, it's not about changing data because the data is there. I think it's where are you going to get the data?
Okay.
And I think it's how do you research, how do you bring in more people, how are you asking more questions, how are you building more into a data set that makes sense? I can't go get the exact same data that we have had the exact same problems with and put it into these different data sets and think it's going to give me a better outcome. It's not. It'll give me the same outcome, if not a worse outcome. So for us, it is, how do we go to more black-owned banks to get more data? I'll give an example. I know ChatGPT announced a partnership with Shutterstock.
Okay.
Now, how many of us go to Shutterstock to actually find a photo of, it's like the same black guy on Shutterstock, I'm telling you, like it's the exact same guy. If you search for the guy, it's this one black guy, and you always know that you Shutterstock that's the exact same black guy, every stock photo, and I bet everybody's seen the same black guy. So if I am ChatGPT and I got that partnership, I'm gonna see the same black guy all the time because that's the only thing I'm putting in it. And so it's how do we go to other places that I think people are not partnering with or getting that data, or once again building that data. That's the piece from that research side that we'll do, and then we'll carry over to the deployment side.
Okay, one of the things that you mentioned was that, of course, a lot of people are fearful that all this AI will take over their jobs, change the landscape that is not, in a way that's not going to benefit them. Companies like Nationwide are committed to making sure AI is used to assist and not meant to take away jobs and take away from the talent that's there. How do you think entrepreneurs should approach the conversation about AI if they've never used it? Where do they go? Who do they talk to?
I mean, there's different programs. I mean, some of the probably more standard places to go is like a Teachable, a Udemy. Like, go and take those courses. Find mentors, find people that you can reach out to. LinkedIn is a great place. You'll be amazed who will respond to you. Nash is once again one of my mentors who's always teaching me. Deeplearning.ai is a great resource. Definitely check it out. So the internet is a beautiful place.
It is, girl.
Go and learn. But once again, AI is not here to take your jobs for the most part. It's going to be learning the shift in the job that you'll have to do.
So there's been a lot of conversations about like the ethical and moral use of AI from, I don't know, actors not being able to, not being in a movie, but it's like their AI likeness, or people's voices being used in a way that they didn't want to be used, right? So what is your position on the ethical use and responsibility of using these platforms?
I think it starts with the companies that are putting doing the programs. And it was, I believe it was maybe yesterday, day before yesterday, where the announcement came that, I keep using OpenAI because they're probably one of the biggest in the game, clearly. Where they pretty much laid off their entire safety team.
Okay.
And it was a choice they made of saying, do we want to build fast, make mistakes, and then as we learn and we make the mistakes, we'll correct it as we go?
Yeah.
Or do we build slow, and then we put safety first? They felt that the decision was better to continue to build fast, make all the mistakes, and then figure out safety on the back end. So you have big companies like that's doing that. That's when you're pushing more into the issues. It's not a regulated space. They're trying to get there. I still think we have some issues to go, some ways to go. But then you have a lot of companies that are stepping up now. Sony sent out emails to everybody dealing with AI and pretty much said, if we find out you're using our lyrics or our artists' voices, we're going to sue you, pretty much. And so it's the responsibility of the AI companies. I think we're clearly going to have to get it regulated, but you see companies now also stepping up. I can't tell you how many times I look at anything AI news and OpenAI, Google, somebody's being sued because of the issues with safety, regulatory, and we just still, it's not there now.
Yeah.
But it'll get there, and people will continue to get sued, and they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, get a little money in your back pocket for that lawsuit, Okay, so what are some of the new technologies that you've seen outside of AI that have disrupted entrepreneurs' target markets, at least in your industry?
AI is definitely the number one right now. I think it's where all the money is going, and people follow money.
Yeah.
AI is the trendy thing. People are definitely doing that. And I feel like every single person is figuring out how to put AI into what they do. So even as entrepreneurs, we have to find the things that work for us. How do we get to market faster?
Yeah.
What are they using to also go into that? And so if it's a website, for example, something simple, how do I go to Squarespace and make a drag and drop website? How do I use Canva? I want a logo. How do I go to Canva and do a quick? I don't need Photoshop anymore. It's like really fast to do it. So I think it's using those software tools or those tools that are out that are now 9 times out of 10 have implemented artificial intelligence to just move much, much faster.
And I want to bring this back. When we were talking about AI, because obviously we know that AI helps businesses, but specifically, what can it do for a small business to stay competitive amongst other startups? Is it streamlining certain, processes? Is it improving efficiency? Give me something a little more specific about that.
I have a controversial take
Okay.
on that. AI is great, but I know when someone has written a paragraph or sent me an email because they put it in ChatGPT.
Oh.
Like that is the biggest turnoff ever. Like I literally just mark it out. Like no.
Wait, how do you know? How can you tell?
Because they say stuff like, in summary, it's such a, and it's like, I know you literally just got that from like ChatGPT. Like, no, like you gotta be authentic.
Note to self, do not write in summary.
Yeah, it's like, it's, use Grammarly, because I mean, it might help you better, but like, don't literally go and say, I'm trying to send an email to an investor that I want an investment from this, and then like let ChatGPT tell you what to say and send it to an investor. Like, please don't do that. Like, I think there's once again, my controversial take on it, I think that we're allowing technology to take the human piece out of human connections.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
So especially as a small business, as an early entrepreneur, especially if you're trying to raise money or get early customers, like you gotta have, it's a human connection piece that goes there.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that I think we should not allow technology in any way. I don't care if it's artificial intelligence or whatever it is. That's the piece that I want us to stop depending on technology for.
Okay.
Because it's a human relationship. So it's like, it's human to human. Whether that's an email, whether that's a cold outreach, I don't know, I just feel like you know when it's authentic and you know when it's not. So like, I have to sit and hear my dad scream at the phone because it's like everybody's using a certain chat box or something for their phone, and I get it.
Yeah.
It saves money, it saves time. Companies are focusing on profitability, whether you're a small company or you're a Fortune 500. Everything now is profit, profit, profit. I get it. Trying to cut costs, but I think taking too much of the human aspect out of is an issue, and I'm not a fan of that part.
So basically, before they send you an email, and when they put it in ChatGPT, go back through, put a little
ChatGPT, anything OpenAI is doing, that Google's doing, any of these companies, they are great for ideas. They're great to get started, but don't use them from A to Z. Like that's not what they're meant for, and that's what people are using them for. And I beg of you, please don't do that. If you're like trying to write a blog, if you're trying to get some ideas, use them, because they're great conversation starters, they're great idea starters, but using them for every single piece, every single step, I think that's where the issue comes. And I even argue with this with I have nieces and nephews who are 14, 10, 7. And I'm just like, technology is making you dumb.
Right.
And I hate to say it that way, but I'm just like, if I ask my 14-year-old nephew something, he goes and asks Siri. And I'm just like, no, critical thinking. Like, I need you to answer the question. And so I think between like this next generation and then like everybody just wanting to use AI for everything, critical thinking is really important. Knowing how to write a paragraph is really important. If technology went away today, I want you to be able to survive.
Yeah.
So AI is really important. Technology is really important. inclusion of what technology do is really important.
Yeah.
But once again, my take on that is we can't take out the human aspect of life.
Because you know what? ChatGPT can't replicate your stank, okay? Like, you got to put your juice on stuff so that it's you, everything that makes us unique. And I think people forget that. I mean, I've forgotten that a few times. Like, oh, I don't say stuff like that. Let me like reword what OpenAI gave me. You know what I mean? What are some particular technologies that you've utilized in your business to help you scale and grow your business?
Sounds so sad because I'm a tech founder and I love technology. Once again, my controversial take, I'm a human, I like human one-to-one.
Okay.
So my technology is like booking a flight. So like, how do I go to do like this in-person?
Yeah.
Like I was so down for like pandemic when I'm like having to sit in the house and like raise money. Cause I just feel like first off, it's hard raising money as a black woman, number one. But I think to me it was even harder because I can't go shake your hand, I can't look you in your face, I can't show you like what I'm building, what I'm doing. So I'm still a human person, but everyday business for me, first off, I use my email all day, my phone is in my hand all day. I use ChatGPT, once again, mainly idea-based. Grammarly is my friend.
Okay.
Grammarly is definitely something I use a lot. So if you're somebody who like spell check is your thing or like maybe rewording, Grammarly is definitely a tool that I use often. I use Canva often, so any type of design, anything with that, I use Canva often. Squarespace, if I need to get a quick website up or like just trying to get something out, I use Squarespace for that. I use different little technologies here and there. My map, because I'm lost all the time, I'm not good at direction in any way. But yeah, as far as like just business though, if I can get it done in person, I'm gonna do it in person.
You can't replicate that. That is unique, and that I believe that's probably why people love you as much as they do, is because you're so personable and just the energy and the magnetism that you bring.
I think it's a Southern thing.
It is a Southern thing, girl. You know. Okay. One thing that I want to understand is you've touched on it a little bit about being a black woman in this field, and it's a tech field, so obviously you've had to raise money. What has your experience been from, stepping into Silicon Valley and then where you are today?
I don't even call it fundraising. I literally call it hell raising, because I feel like that's the process, that's what it feels like. I literally actually told an investor this, a current investor. I told him this just this week. I said, I long for the day that a black woman, person of color in general, will be given the exact same time, space, money to build and make the mistakes and fail forward that I've seen white males be able to make. I long for the day. We're way past due.
Yeah.
And it's not to even call anybody out or do anything like that, but it's like, if you watch the WeWork documentary, and you talk about how he tells how he met, the CEO of SoftBank, and he got, $4 billion. I'm like, somebody just give me $4 billion and step back and be like, do your thing. Like, I long for the day. I mean, it doesn't be $4 billion. But we're past due. I know so many black women doing so many amazing things, but they're penny pinching.
Yeah.
And it's tiring.
Yeah.
And so the deserving of it is past due, but I don't know if or when. DEI is clearly going away. That's clearly been a thing that has been public that's going away. I don't know if or when it will happen. The only thing we can do is keep fighting. I feel like every time we break a glass ceiling, we look up and realize there's 10 more stories above us.
Yeah.
And so it gets heartbreaking, but black women do what we do best, and
we make it happen. So what are some of the tips that you have for navigating that not being able to just walk in and say, hey, $4 billion, and they give it to you? How do you navigate that?
You got to be 10 times as good. That's the truth. I don't care. I don't know how else to put it. Your traction has to be there. Your revenue numbers have to be there. There is a such thing as pre-seed, but I mean, your chances of getting it is slim to none. Black women, for the sake of it, Black women raise less than 1% of VC dollars.
That's crazy.
I'm not quite sure if she's here yet, but I know she's an honoree today. Arian Simone, Fearless Fund.
Yes, give it up.
Arian is actually somebody who is an investor. Fearless Fund's an investor in Capway, and so you find your tribe. You find people like that who are purposely wanting to see you win.
Okay.
And so you find allies. Sometimes it is a white man, but how do you find those allies who purposely want to see you win? That's what you have to do, and keep building as long as you can. But startups, companies live off of oxygen. Oxygen is money.
Yes.
So you need money. So you see these companies failing, sometimes it's not about, oh, that person wasn't a great founder. Sometimes it's the fact that they ran out of oxygen because people want to just starve them.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth.
And I know you said you took a moment, with Capway, you stepped back for a second to kind of regroup and recalibrate. Talk to us about the importance of, sometimes you have highs, sometimes you have lows, sometimes you got to step back, sometimes you got to push forward. How do you know what to do, when to do it for your business?
Well, at Capway we raised, and then the fintech space, the funding in the fintech space just completely bottomed out across the board. And especially bottom out, you're talking about a company led by, because Black women already don't raise, so you're looking at a bottom out space plus trying to raise as a Black female. And even when we got a chance to raise a little money, we're not going to be able to raise enough to really scale and do what we want to do. Because mind you, we weren't building just a product, we were building an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like it was fair to myself. I didn't feel like it was fair to my team. I didn't feel like it was fair to the people we were building this for to continue to penny pinch and not really be able to scale it. And so it takes, for me as a founder, it was, hey, I have to, as a CEO too, as a decision maker, I have to step back and say, I have to figure out what else can be done, how else can it be done, because raising another 500,000, raising another million, we're not doing a service to anybody.
Yeah.
And so that was a decision that I have made and I had to make as a CEO.
What is some advice that you have for entrepreneurs who have to take a moment and regroup? What would you say to them?
Number one thing is don't be ashamed. I think there's a lot of shame that comes when we have to close down our companies. And the truth is 70 to 90%, depending on what data you look at, 70 to 90% of startups fail. And it's not just Black-led startups that fail. 70 to 90% of startups in general fail. And be honest with your investors, something that I struggle with very early. Transparently, I struggle with that. And then when I start talking to my investors, the ones who I end up building a great relationship with, they would explain to me, okay, what are you doing next then? It's like, okay, it didn't work, cool. We love you as a founder, what are you doing next? And then you start to realize, and probably one of the things you should know or learn early as a founder, is that investors literally already put it in their books for a certain percentage of their portfolio to fail anyway. So it's not like it's the end of the world. And I think a lot of us feel like it is the end of the world. They're ashamed with it. How do I keep it going for my employees? How do I keep it going for my customers? How do I keep it going for my investors? But the numbers are the numbers, and the investors are pretty much prepared. It's like easy math. There's 10 companies, $1 million. They gave everybody 100,000. They know 7 of those companies are going to fail. Your job is to be a great founder, so they'll invest in your next company. 2 of those companies are going to kind of sustain themselves, and then 1 is going to be what they call the home run. And that home run company is going to make up for all the ones that failed. And that's how they work. So as a founder, once you get that, once you understand that, once you just do your job as a founder, that's when the hard times come, they come because they're going to come.
Yeah.
And then you just learn to pick up and you keep moving.
That's such good advice because, sometimes you get discouraged, but it's like, keep going. Keep going, because on the other side of that mountain, honey, okay? You explained earlier that you're a non-technical founder.
Yes.
Meaning you don't have a tech background, you're not coding stuff, but you run a tech company. How can some entrepreneurs here understand technology more if they're not, if they're in the same boat as you, meaning they're not technical people?
Yeah, so first off, check out appitout.com, APPITOUT. That's a product that we're working on, and it's actually for non-technical people. But I tell people that if you have an idea, you are non-technical, there are pieces there, I'll give top 3. 1, make sure you flush out your ideas and validate your idea before going to the next step, because you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money and realize that you just wasted money. The second thing is finding, especially if you're a solo founder, finding a really great developer. You can offshore some easy websites like Upwork is probably the best one, UPWORK. Upwork is probably one of the most popular ones. Just look at their portfolio and then cold email or call people in their portfolio because they will lie. People falsify portfolios all the time. So check their portfolio. And then last but not least, always do milestones for payments. Never pay a freelancer or somebody you're working with all their money up front, because if you do, they will likely ghost you or not do the job the way you want it done. And so pay in milestones. I meet a lot of non-technical people who hire developers and pay all the money up front and then run into issues on the back end. So my top 3, if you're non-technical and trying to work with someone to get some tech done, by far my top 3 things to do.
Wonderful. I love it. Okay, and we have time for a few questions. So let me see, where's my mic at? Over, right there. Okay, yes. Raise your hand.
Questions? Okay.
Hey, my name is Demba. I'm an aerospace engineer. My question is, as a tech entrepreneur, you've done a lot of different things. You built a lot of different apps, done a lot of different projects and that type of thing. So from a tech entrepreneur perspective, what are the essential components that you need whenever you start any business, any endeavor? Like, let's say I had $1 million idea today. Like, what is everything I need to do to bring that idea to fruition in order for me to serve people, but also make money?
Number 1 is figure out if the idea that you have, what do you need to get started as far as like, is it money? And if it is money, is it going to be something that you can raise as far as like family and friends, or is it VC backable? Every company is not VC backable. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that people make. It's like, I had this idea, let me go run out and find some investors to invest in it. Every company is not VC backable, and that's okay. So you need to figure that part out first. Validate the idea. I think idea validation is something that so many entrepreneurs jump over, because we all have so many ideas and we all think our ideas are like $1 billion idea and they're so great, but not every idea is worth executing on. And there's processes and ways of validating the idea. Call customers who you think will be your customers, or whether that's an individual, whether it's a B2B business. Call, ask questions. Who are your competitors? You know, are you gonna be able to compete with the competitors that are currently in that space? And it's not that your competitor is Google, because maybe Google is not necessarily your competitor. Maybe it's an indirect competitor and a potential acquirer. You know, you want to be able to figure out those things out before you start building. And then once you build, team is everything. I tried to do it by myself. My first company is hell. I don't know if I can say that, I'm sorry. It's not nice. It's anybody who do entrepreneurship anyway is crazy. I tell everybody that only way you can be an entrepreneur is if you're crazy, because either you can go work a 9 to 5 and get your paycheck, or you can work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., take a nap, get up at 12, work 12 to 4, and figure it out and eat ham sandwiches. You gotta be crazy to do it anyway. So you might as well not skip a step and figure out if it's worth going for.
Hi Meg, hi Sheena. Thank you for that session. My name is Bree, and I'm a newly minted fintech founder of an app called Cadet Prosperette. So I have a lot of social impact acumen and a lot of like the creative and visual, but repeatedly I keep getting advised that I need to just kind of come hell or high water, get a technical co-founder / CTO like yesterday. My dilemma obviously is that I realize that search is more like trying to find a spouse as opposed to finding a roommate. So in terms of figuring out how to toe that line and, you know, appeasing potential investors or funders, but also staying true to the integrity of my vision and not trying to jump the gun on something so high stakes, what do you recommend?
So some investors are very much, if you don't have a technical co-founder or somebody that can code for you, no. Not everybody, but there are resources that you can find a co-founder. I did Y Combinator. Capway did Y Combinator. Y Combinator has a program to find co-founders. I would recommend you check it out. I literally have met people who have found their co-founder through this platform. And there's a few others that are available, but I recommend the YC one just because I witnessed people find great co-founders. The other thing is, you're in Atlanta. You got Georgia Tech, you got Morehouse, you have, like, go to these colleges, find a young developer who has some experience, and you might not be able to pay that person. A lot of times you can't pay your co-founder or pay your first employee. You got to find somebody that believes in the vision as much as you do, give them equity, and then say, hey, once we raise, your salary will be here, but you're also getting X amount of equity up front, so they know they have skin in the game, but they also have some upside. It's sweat equity, but the sweat equity will only be done if that person believes in that vision as much as you. But you can find them, like find somebody young, college student coming out of college, or once again, like something like a YC program or platform that's meant just to find co-founders. But the number 2 reason that startups fail is actually because co-founders fall out. So finding somebody that's compatible, that matches with you, I think money is number 1, co-founder fallout is number 2. Finding somebody that's compatible is actually really important.
To that point, YCOM, I signed up on there and they keep sending me white men. So I'm like moving my focus probably, I'm from Atlanta, living in Brooklyn right now, so I'm gonna try the college route and see what I can find.
There's some resources, I'll find you out there. There's some resources in Brooklyn. There's a program in Brooklyn right now that's doing a lot of resources around, particularly for black and brown founders. I'll find you out there and give you some.
We have time for a couple more questions. I want to make sure we get, one more question. Gotta make it good, it's the last one. Yes, where's our mic? Right there, one more question.
I'd like you to build on this idea that money flows to great founders when people think it grows to great businesses. In other words, the businesses may fail, but if the founder has a great founder, he or she will still attract investment. What are maybe the top 3 characteristics of a great founder in the eyes of potential investors?
That's a good question.
From my knowledge and my experience, and then friends who've raised, one is communication. Communicating really well, the good and the bad, because once again, if every investor update you send to an investor is always 100% good, they know you're lying. Because there is never a time when every startup is doing great 100% of the time. So communication and honesty is also important. Do you say what you're going to do? Because an example of that is I send an investor a pitch or ask them to invest, and they say, we love it, but you're a little too early for us, but keep us updated. And that's a choice, by the way, as a founder. You can be like, I'm not gonna waste my time, or you can have trust in this investor and say, I'm gonna keep them updated. If you told the investor, I'll come back when I get 10,000 users. If you go back and you can show you have 10,000 users, investors a lot of times will actually turn around and then invest because you did exactly what you said you were going to do. Mm-hmm. So that's probably number 2. And then number 3, I've noticed that investors love someone who has put skin in the game themselves. And it doesn't have to always be money. Sweat equity, we talked about sweat equity. That's my phone, sorry. But how much time, money, what have you put into it that is not just me? Because investors only look for one thing. How are you going to pay their money back? Yeah. And so if you don't have anything in the game that says like you just depending on me, one of the best advice, and I don't really take advice by the way, but one of the best things I ever learned was when I was in Austin, Texas. I had never raised money before. I pitched to an investor who was a mentor. It was just a cold pitch. And he told me, he said, you pitch like a girl. And I asked him, what did he mean by that? Because he was a white male, and I'm like, what does that mean? And he said, when white men come to me and pitch, they pitch to me like I need them. He said, you pitch to me like you need me. And if you need me, why am I giving you my money? And that was probably the best advice I've ever got from an investor. So be confident, communication, and do what you say you're going to do.
Oh, that's good. Y'all give it up for Sheena Allen. Thank you.